Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the program. Hi, it is the Jeff Gerstmann Show for May 12th, 2026. I am your host, Jeff Gerstmann. Hanging out, doing our thing here live on the internet. There's a lot of news suddenly popped off, like all of a sudden here this morning. Just a bunch of little stories. It's been, I guess, a handful of days here that I have been screwing around with the Steam controller, seen here in my hands. If you're not watching, I'll describe it to you. I'll paint a word picture. It's a video game controller. Yeah. The Steam controller is really, really cool. And very, very specific. It is not really. It is somewhat hard to recommend depending on what you do with video games on your PC. Now, they are not fucking around when they call it a Steam controller. That's what they mean. It's a controller for use within Steam. Outside of Steam. If you're launching games, say, from the Xbox app, if that's your bag, baby, or you're playing, emulators or whatever, the Steam controller is not going to really work for you. It is basically, it rings up as a keyboard when you plug it into other devices, like, say, the Mister, and basically, outside of Steam, it'll do things like, the D-pad is kind of automatically built to work like arrow keys, and the right mouse pad here is built to work like a mouse. Your R2 trigger is built for your left mouse click, and so it is kind of built as a keyboard and mouse. And outside of Steam, that's exactly what it is. So when you plug it into, even like loading it up on RetroArch on the PC. Plugging it in directly to a Mister, the D-pad works, and so you get a second where you're like, oh, this is working, great, and then you realize every single button on the controller acts as a back button. Like every single button you press just kind of like backs out, and you cannot even map the controls on a Mister. I wonder if this is something that, like, on the Mister side of things, if they could, if that is something that they could do on their end to better acknowledge and work with the controller. So there's but basically right now there's no way to like map the controls on this with RetroArch or some of the other stuff. Like the buttons just don't like surface to the OS in the way that you would expect, seemingly. And so you should know that going in. This is a device for people who want to play PC games through Steam, and it is best suited for people who are doing that without a mouse and keyboard in front of them. That's kind of the other thing. This is built to solve a specific problem. That problem specifically being, you have a PC hooked up to a television and you don't have a mouse and keyboard nearby, and you want to try to play video games that might require that. And it might not require it all the time, but it might require it just enough that you would want some kind of mouse device or some kind of mouse equivalent, right? And if you do that, or you're looking to do that, this is fucking awesome. Because it is the exact controls of the Steam Deck, but without a screen in the middle. So you lose your touch screen, which was, kind of an effective alternate mouse, you might say. And so you kind of lose that in favor of these trackpads. If you've used a Steam Deck, you know exactly how these haptics feel. When you rub your finger on them, it goes brrr a little bit and feels very pleasant. It has 4 back buttons that are like, these 4 back buttons on the rear of the controller are some of the best placed back buttons I think I've ever felt. Like they're right there where your fingers, my fingers anyway, just kind of naturally lie. The analog triggers feel a little hollow to me, which is very similar to, I think, the Steam Deck, and I wish that felt a little more sturdy. The D-pad is okay. The buttons are fine. The sticks are tighter than an Xbox One controller, but not as tight as a DualSense Edge, which is a very, perhaps, specific And I like a tighter analog stick. I don't know if you know that about me. I like a tighter analog stick. And so these are just tight enough to feel good. I prefer the slightly tighter sticks on the DualSense Edge over these, I would say. But yeah, this is a device created to solve a problem. And so if you are a person who sits at a desk to play PC games and you already have a mouse and keyboard right in front of you, you don't need this. You can, if you just want a fun thing to fuck around with, then hey, go for it. But like, it's designed for situations where you do not have a mouse and keyboard. That is the benefit here. That is what they're trying to solve when they made the Steam controller. It is the Steam controller that is meant to be used with the Steam machine, or whatever equivalent Steam machine you may be making in your basement, in lieu of there being actual Steam machines out there. If you are sitting in front of a mouse and keyboard and you really like your existing gamepad, you don't need it, man. It's not for you, but it's pretty awesome. It's very well made. It feels it's the weight distribution on it is very nice. It is not overly heavy. I think there are better D-pads out there. I don't think this is an amazing D-pad. And the buttons are maybe a little overly, I don't know. Like they're like it's the hollowness in the analog sticks that gets me. Like that part of it feels very specifically cheap. And that's actually the Steam Deck, I think, has a similar issue where the analog sticks do feel kind of light. The analog sticks feel good. The buttons are well placed. But I guess the other thing I would say is this is specifically designed to be used in big picture mode. So again, you know, like if you're launching games at your desk and you're sitting there with a mouse and keyboard and a gamepad and all this other stuff, you just don't you don't need it. And so as a result, like this is something I will probably use on my Bazite machine, because that's a Steam big picture mode thing that I have that is hooked up to a television without a mouse and a keyboard. I actually do have a mouse and keyboard hooked up to it, but I hate having it there. Boy, what if I didn't need to lean forward and use it occasionally? And so the Steam controller is very handy for that. But it's not gonna, you know, like I this is where the pricing stuff kind of comes into play too. Like you saw some people complaining about this being a $100 controller, to which I would say it has these really cool haptic mouse things on it that other controllers straight up don't have. And you know, there's kind of a lot going on with this controller. It's got a wireless puck that both acts as the receiver for its wireless connections, as well as a thing that you can slap it onto and charge it. You can also plug the controller in direct USB if that's your style, if that's what you want to do. That certainly works as well. But for what it has on it for $100, I think it's actually well priced when you consider the alternative gamepads out there of quality, of note, meaning a DualSense Edge is twice as much money as this. An Xbox Elite controller is twice as much money as this. A standard, Switch 2 Pro controller, which sucks, is $90 if it hasn't gone up yet. So I think, when you look at kind of other first-party controllers and other kind of like big, well-made, well-thought-out controllers, I think the Steam controller is extremely well-priced in the middle of all of that. Now, if you're the sort of person who's just like, well, I bought a GameSir from Temu for $45 and it's the shit, and you like the controller, then fine, yeah. There are other controllers you can get out there for way less money. And some of those are fine. I don't know. I've had some. I think a lot of those controllers are getting a lot better as time goes on. I have my 8-bit do this is so I have 3 fucking controllers hooked up to my PC right now. It's the dumbest shit. And the dumb thing is, there are games that I need all 3 for. Well, 2 of the 3 at least. But I have this wireless. What is this? This is an 8-bit do ultimate wireless controller with a dock and all this other stuff and. This is an X input controller, so it can be used to play games in the Xbox store, because a lot of games in the Xbox store will not let you use a PlayStation controller. And I'm currently playing a game in the Xbox store that makes me use this controller every single time. This controller, the 8-bit Ultimate, what is this? This is the Ultimate 2, is a totally okay controller. It's absolutely all right. But I don't feel passionate about it. I have come to feel like really weirdly passionate about the DualSense Edge. Because it has an extra heft to it. I think there's an extra level of tightness to the analog sticks that I really like, and I have come to prefer the PlayStation D-pad. These are good feeling triggers. Obviously, if you happen to be playing Sony first-party games, which is not going to be a thing anymore, or the small handful of third-party games that support the haptics, the specific haptics of a DualSense controller, that's kind of nice to have on PC. I'm trying to think about games that actually support that now, especially if Sony's going to pull back and not and not actually keep like releasing their games. Like Call of Duty has haptic support on PC. I can't remember any other recent third-party games that support it. Oh, yeah, Pragmata does it. Yeah, I guess Pragmata does do it, doesn't it? Yeah, so there's a handful of third-party games that bring their existing haptic trigger support over, which for some games is nice and some games is not great. So in fact, in Call of Duty I turned it off because I'm mostly playing multiplayer, and you want a trigger that pulls as fast as possible when you're playing a multiplayer game. And that's having a controller that is fighting against you to pull the trigger, I think, is sort of silly. But that has become my preferred controller. But again, I think even that controller is difficult to recommend because it's fucking $200. And that's a stupid amount of money to pay for a video game controller. I have paid $200 for, let's say, 4-ish video game controllers. I bought an Elite 1, an Elite 2, and I wanted a black DualSense Edge, so I bought 2 DualSense. I have a gray. I have one of the 30th anniversary. I have 3 DualSense Edges. One is still in box. But they're great controllers. Don't buy one. They're too much money. You don't need it. But as someone who already has one, and I bought the first DualSense Edge because I just needed to know. I was like, how does this stand up to the Elite controller? Because actually, the Xbox Elite controller, I think, is actually quite good. It just, all of the rubber on it started peeling off, which ironically happened to my first DualSense Edge. And I went and bought a bunch of like stickers to put on it. This was the dumbest. This is dumb. Let me grab this. My first DualSense Edge, the kind of the rubberish things around the grips started lifting up from under the seals, and so there's a bunch of people on the internet selling really shitty, or not really shitty, but like really cheap kind of stickers that are grips that you can put on the controller. And so I went and attached these plastic or rubbery stickers to the controller to give it more grip, and thinking that would help stick and it would go over the parts that had peeled up and all this other stuff and fix it. It did not. I ended up taking some Gorilla Glue and gluing the rubber to the controller that had lifted up, because actually fixing that the right way involves you completely taking the controller apart, and I'm not going to do that. That's fucking ridiculous. So I ended up with a black DualSense Edge, and I don't. It's a hell of a controller, but that's I think in a lot of ways there's never been a better time for video game controllers. You know what I mean? Like, we have really, for the most part, really good first-party controllers. I think that Nintendo is a shit show, and I don't think any of their controllers are good Pro controller sucks. The Joy-Cons are don't feel good. Like they're just yuck. But barring that, I think we have like really high quality first party controllers, both at a base level and their kind of elevated, way too expensive level. And then we've seen a rise of like really nice third party controllers from companies like whether it's 8BitDo or some people really like the Game Sir controllers. I know they have a relatively new one out here, and all of the weird third party controllers now advertise all these insane polling rates where you're just like, you're gonna plug this in and like it's 8,000 hertz, and you know you're gonna like, there are like 2 people in the chat that insist that the Switch 2 Pro controller is great. It's okay. It's like, you can be wrong. It's fine. You guys have a great day. Like, you should try. Do you ever want to use a D-pad accurately on a controller? I might suggest taking your Switch 2 Pro controller and throwing it in the fucking garbage then, because that's the only way you're going to get an accurate D-pad. But yeah, there's just a weird. It's nice to have that kind of weird variety out there of like decent to good controllers. I bought the like Ghoulie Kit King Kong Pro 2, and they have the King Kong 3 out now that is apparently good as well. But like, you know, if you're someone who wants TMR sticks or Hall Effect sticks or whatever, like, you know, like there's a lot of that stuff out there. And there, it's great. You know, you can really kind of dig into that and find a variety of pretty good controllers. So yeah, the Steam controller is very nice. I used it. This is the first game I played on it was World War Legion, which is the crappy low rent first person shooter from the makers of Combat Master, which, if you have not seen, I have managed to stream that thing a handful of times. It is a garbage it is a garbage first person shooter, Call of Duty knockoff, whatever you want to call it. It is a mobile game first, and these games are on Steam. Combat Master is a more modern game, and World War Legion is basically the same game but reskinned for World War II, and they're really trashy. They're really trashy, but also kind of fun, because some number of the players you're fighting against are playing on their phones, and you can really fuck them up. It is like Quake 3 Dreamcast levels of you playing with a broadband adapter, mouse and keyboard, and they are on dial-up and a controller, and you're just like running circles around. Like it's really, it could be a really good time. This is where all the I think Combat Master is where all the streamers who complain about skill-based matchmaking should go. If they're like, oh, Call of Duty, they're ruining it with, you know, if they want to have like clips of them, you know, killing 25 people in a row, they should all just go play Combat Master, because that's all it's full of, is like so I'll say my first match in World War Legion, the follow-up to Combat Master, I got the nuke. Like, you get like, you know, like Call of Duty, if you've maybe heard of this, if you get like 20-ish kills in a row, 25, whatever it is, yeah, you get to call in a nuke and immediately win the match. My first match with the Steam controller, I got exactly that. So if that is not a ringing endorsement for the Steam controller, I don't know what is. But yeah, these games are bad. Like, keep in mind, I'm recommending that you go play some bad games, because we need more of that in our life. But yes, World War Legion is out now. It came out late last year, and it is like following on from Combat Master, which is years old at this point, and they are both practically identical, but one's got World War II SMGs and one's got more modern looking SMGs, and it's basically the same fucking game. And it's some real light trash. If you need some just throwaway gaming in your life, I might recommend installing World War Legion and giving it a go. Just don't ever read the chat or any other player names or anything like that, because I don't think they moderate. I don't think they moderate any of that. I also have played some Chain Staff. Chain Staff has been out on Steam for a few weeks, and look, I am a sucker for a grappling hook in a video game. And Chain Staff is a game about you having a grappling hook, and you can also jump, though. It's not just Bionic Commando. I guess the story here is that you're a soldier and an alien ate half of your head, and so you're a soldier with the top half of your head is an alien, and and it is a side-scrolling game with a real kind of paper doll, kind of Ernest Evans sort of look to its animation that I really hated for the first 10 minutes and then got way into it. I don't know, like there's something kind of like, if Adult Swim Games was still around, I feel like Chain Staff would be a weird-looking game that would be right up their alley, because you're just like running around with the top half of your body being an alien, and you're blowing up all these fucking other gross looking aliens, and everything is animated in a very weird and sometimes off-putting way that I came to appreciate during my time with it. But it has a really good grappling hook, and if you charge up the grappling hook, you will throw it like a spear, and you can lodge it into things and use it to block shots or other, like there's kind of some interesting mechanics around it. Yeah, I mean, if you like a game with a grappling hook, like I like a game with a grappling hook, you owe it to yourself to at least give Chain Staff a glance. Go watch some of the trailers and stuff and see how you feel about it. Again, the look is distinct. The look is distinct, we'll say. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back and we will get into the news after this. Maintaining good password discipline. It can be tricky, you're trying to keep a different password on every single site. You're trying to make sure that all your passwords are good and not repeating concepts or phrases or words or anything like that. How do you keep all that stuff in your head? You don't. You get a password manager. You get Keeper. That's right. Keeper Security. It's a password manager. Makes it so you only have to remember one master password to get into all of the rest of your passwords. It takes the hassle out of logging in. You can automatically log in, with the Keeper's kind of browser add-ons and all that other cool stuff. Keeper's a password manager that creates strong, unique passwords for all your accounts. It stores them securely in one place and logs you in automatically across all your devices, so you never have to remember, guess, or worry about your login credentials again. That's huge. That's huge. I know a lot of people that are still out there using the same password on multiple sites, which is like, in terms of like maintaining accounts on the internet, one of the dumbest things you can do. Don't do it. But, no one's going to expect you to remember unique passwords across every site. Get Keeper. Keeper is simple. It uses, autofill and uses Face ID or fingerprint login to make things easier for you to get into your accounts on mobile devices. It's got best-in-class protection, so it doesn't feel like extra work. Keeper just happens in the background and gets you access to your accounts easy and safely. Stop thinking about passwords. Get on with your day with Keeper. Let Keeper do the thinking. And right now, you can get 60% off all personal and family plans at keepersecurity.com/Jeff. This offer is for you. That's keepersecurity.com/Jeff. For 60% off personal and family plans, make sure you use that link so that they know that we sent you. keepersecurity.com/Jeff. Okay, in the news, they're going to make a Star Fox game. How do you feel about Star Fox 64? They're going to make it again, proving that there are no new ideas for anything related to Star Fox, and that there haven't been in some time. This is, they kind of just threw this out there. I think like an hour or so before they aired it, they just said, hey, We're gonna do a Star Fox thing. Come check out Star Fox. And then they announced Star Fox. It is just called Star Fox because it would be weird to call it Star Fox 64 all these years later. But make no mistake, they are remaking Star Fox 64. They have redone it in what they're calling a cinematic take. You know, they've overhauled the characters and they look, I don't know, they've got some fur. You know, they're fully voicing the game, which we talk a lot about should certain types of characters speak in video games. I remain firm that if the Star Fox characters are not going like if they're not just if they're not doing that, then what, we're wasting our fucking time. Like, this is like, I don't want to hear them speak actual English. This is kind of on the heels of Fox McCloud showing up in the Mario Galaxy movie, which my son has decided that he's into, the movie at least. Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna make Star Fox 64 again. That doesn't do anything for me. You know, online multiplayer and some of that stuff, like, sure, that could be kind of cool, I suppose. Because I certainly wouldn't want to play fucking split screen multiplayer in this day and age. The other thing they're doing is, there's a special C button on the controller that no one has ever pressed. And someday, if you were to press this button, you could video chat with your friends using the camera, which I don't know if you bought a Switch 2 camera. I did. I have never used it. Other than to plug it in and go like, oh, that's me. Yep. For all the multiplayer Switch 2 gaming I'm going to be doing, here it is. Star Fox will let you be a Fox McCloud VTuber, I suppose. No, I don't know. Like, you can you can replace the picture for coming from the camera with a picture of Fox McCloud, and it will animate in such a way that if you blink, it will blink, and it looks like really bad face rig, or really middling face rig. I guess it doesn't look bad. Like, it looks functional. But as you open and close your mouth, the on-screen avatar will do so. And then you can use that to chat with other people on the Switch 2. Even if they're not playing Star Fox at the time, you have to be. But you can send that out as your video feed, which, sure, that's fun, I guess. I don't know. That's like a cool little fun little thrown in thing. I just the idea of video chat on a Switch 2 just still seems like something that no human is ever going to seriously partake in. So it really just looks like something that you just look at and go like, okay, you're wasting more time and effort on this dumb feature that like no one's ever going to use. You can play with the mouse, which is kind of neat. They're also they're creating a Lucky and Wild mode, I guess, where one player can fly and the other player can shoot. So if you want to, split some Joy-Cons and do that sort of stuff, you can do that too. I don't like. Star Fox is. I was about to say Star Fox deserves better, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. The idea that they keep kind of doing these remakes and reissues of Star Fox 64, which now this is the third or is this the fourth? Because there's like Star Fox 64 for DS or whatever, 3DS, and then there is Star Fox Zero, and then now this. I don't know. Like, I am all for the idea of a brand new Star Fox game. As someone who did not care for Star Fox 64 at the time, structurally, or just anything, like really much of anything about it. Like the idea that Star Fox 64 has become the go-to game they keep trying to like remake and reissue or whatever, to me just kind of signals a real lack of care on Nintendo's part for the franchise. But at the same time, they cared enough to try to put this motherfucker into the movie. And so you just look at it and go like, what do you just have like no ideas for this? Like you got nothing. You got nothing for Star Fox. Which I think that's fine too. If they just didn't make any more Star Fox games, but like stop then. Either do something brand new and try to do something exciting, or like walk away from this. Like the original Star Fox is a really fucking cool game, but a significant chunk of that comes from like it being a crazy technological feat. Like no small part of the initial Star Fox's success is due to like, hey man, we invented a brand new weird chip that we were going to put in the cartridges that lets it do fucking polygons at like 8 frames a second or 15 or whatever it is. Like that's awesome. It's awesome. Like that's a really cool game and everything looks neat and it's such a stylized crazy look because of those technological limitations, I suppose. And I guess I don't think they've made another good Star Fox game since. Star Fox 2, actually. Kind of neat. Though a lot of those ideas would go on to be reused in Star Fox 64, and so it's kind of, like Star Fox 2 is sort of a strange beast in and of itself. It's great that Star Fox 2 eventually got released. That they finally found a way to get that out to people. I remember being somewhat impressed with Star Fox 2 when they showed it. I guess would that have been the last CES or the first E3? Like it was somewhere around 94, 95, whatever it was. But they had, because Star Fox 2 was like, you can be a tank in this one, they had built little kind of sit-down tank cockpits, and you could sit in them and play Star Fox 2 on the SNES. And I remember coming away from that demo going like, yeah, man, cool. They're making another Star Fox. Like, it's weird to be playing Super Nintendo games at a time when, we're moving on to new consoles and everything. But like, this looks really cool. And then they canned it, which I think made a lot of sense at the time, obviously. Because, like the SNES was, done at that point. And no point in kind of releasing that then. And then we would eventually get Star Fox 64 once the N64 came out and all of that stuff, and you get it packed in with a Rumble Pack or whatever. And yeah, I just I always felt Star Fox 64 was a letdown. Primarily, like it was one of those games, and Nintendo likes to make these, right? They like to make these games. I think like some of the new Super Mario Brothers games for 3DS and stuff are like extremely guilty of this. But they started making some of these games, and they still do make them here and there, of like, here's a game that is incredibly easy to finish, and we've put some alternate routes in there for you if you want to go back and play it again. And if you're looking for more of a challenge, we've got some alternate pathways in there that expand the game out in such a way that it doesn't feel like you fucking just blasted through it in 3 hours and blah blah blah. But I came away from Star Fox 64 upon finishing the kind of like first route or getting, like finishing the game for the first time and being like, I don't want to play any more of this. You're telling me that you've put more game in there hidden somewhere? Like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to see any more of this fucking thing. And so like Star Fox 64 was just, I don't know. Like again, I think, that's a game that, much like GoldenEye and some of the other N64 stuff, if you're a kid at the time and you've never played multiplayer games on the internet, or, which was a thing you could do at the time, if you've never had a better way to play multiplayer games, the idea of 4-player split screen Star Fox is probably something that is like at least mildly appealing to you. But for me at the time, I did not write the review of Star Fox 64. I thought I did. I looked it up and I was like, oh no, I guess I didn't. I guess I did not review Star Fox 64 at the time. But man, that game I found to be repulsive in the sense that it repelled me. Like I did not want to play any more of it. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, saw this thing, done. And so the idea that that's become the fucking Magna Carta, the the centerpiece, the ancient text that all future Star Fox has been written upon is fucking bonkers to me. That's the thing they keep going back to and going like, yes, now it is time for more Star Fox. And you're like, dude, it would be so cool to make a big, full-on, massive, modern Star Fox game and make something new and brand new that would appeal to, I think, a wide range of players and whatever. But I guess it's been long enough, and people still have that dumb nostalgia for Star Fox 64. So why not? You know. But I just came away from that announcement, like watching their demo and just going like, yeah, this feels grim in a way. This feels like we had no better ideas. We wanted to spend a minimum amount of time on this project, and it's out in June. So yeah. Maybe this will be the game that leads to the, we always, when all these remakes come along, you always like to sit there and go like, well, if this one does well, maybe they'll make a brand new one. And sure, maybe they will eventually take that on. But Nintendo is not exactly in the business of cranking them out either, like, oh, they liked this Star Fox, let's get down there and make another one. Like it's not, that's just kind of not their way also. And so just sort of a somewhat weird announcement, I guess. I can't help but be a little down on it, just because it would be much more interesting to see something that's actually new. Anyway, that's out June 25th. They announced that and then got out there with their earnings call, announcing their financial results for the first quarter of this year, which is the last quarter of the fiscal year, whatever. Anyway, January through March or whatever, they sold, according to VideoGamesChronicles.com's recap of said earnings call, they sold 2.49 million Switch 2s during that quarter, which brings the total number sold in to 19.86 million, which puts them about 5 million units ahead of the original Switch when you launch a line that. And as VGC notes, about 6 million units ahead of where the PS5 and PS4 were. So the Switch 2 is still selling quite well. They did give some sales data for some games. Keep in mind, I don't think they break out bundles versus individual sales. So naturally, Mario Kart World has sold 14.7 million copies. Donkey Kong Bonanza is listed at second with 4.5 million. Pokemon Legends has 3.94. Pokemon Pokopia, already on the list with 2.41, and Kirby Air Riders with 187. They're also going to raise the price of the Switch too. And so they're forecasting a little downward. They're saying like, hey, sales are going to maybe taper off a little bit because we're going to make the Switch to $500. That'll be happening September 1st. So there's never been a better time to get a Switch 2, I suppose. I guess nice of them in some weird way to get out there and give you plenty of heads up notice that they are about to raise the price of the console. And they, like everyone else does, they are of course laying this at the feet of, these crazy economic times, which has just become shorthand for AI and tariffs and all the other horse shit that's going on every day in our world, every single fucking day. Every single day. But yes, they are saying that they expect the slowdown in Switch 2 sales to continue. Obviously, if they're going to raise the price, then naturally. Sony also issued their similar earnings calls type stuff last week. And they are reporting that they sold 1.5 million PlayStation 5s in the first quarter of the year, which brings the lifetime total up to 93.7 million. Video Games Chronicle notes that this is now slightly less than the PlayStation 4 managed, which puts the PS5 slightly behind the PS4, which they had kind of always said, oh, it's trending ahead of PS4, and and it's basically the same. And so, launch aligned, the PS5's doing great, and all of this other stuff. But now that is changed, if ever so slightly. And they too seem to expect the headwinds to continue on the hardware front. And so they expect sales to kind of continue sort of in that direction. They're also saying that, hey, they're not really... Hiroki Totoki, who's the president and CEO of Sony, on this call was asked about PlayStation 6. And basically the recap there is that there's no official decision, that they have not made the decision on when to release the console and how much to sell it for. Specifically because component pricing and all this other stuff is just not clear right now. The quote here is, looking at the current circumstances, the memory price is also expected to be very high in fiscal year 2027 because there will still be a shortage of supply. So under that assumption, we must think carefully what we will do. We would like to think about various simulations, including changing business models to come up with the best solution and strategy. But he does note that demand has not gone down. Number of active users on PlayStation platforms continues to grow and all that sort of stuff. So, people want to play games. But we are going to continue to butt up against the reality of, people want to play games but can no longer afford them. If we're not there already, then that's something that is, that is the likely direction that things are moving in. I do think it's interesting that he does say that they have not decided on the timing, because that's something that, the timing for when you launch a console is there's only so much wiggle room when you start down that road of let's make another PlayStation. You kind of know at some point, you're like, okay, well, it'll take us this long to do this, and the PlayStation 5 is here sales wise, so we want to have it right around here. That'll be the nice way to kind of catch that wind and get people moving on to a new platform, and so on and so forth. I think we've been hearing a number of rumors for a while now about the next Xbox and PlayStation that puts them as coming out as early as next holiday, meaning 2027, which seems soon and crazy for a number of reasons. And so Totoki getting out here and saying that they have not decided. I mean, he may very well have a really good idea of when it's going to launch, and obviously they're not going to just announce that in the middle of this call. They'll have a big rollout plan for when they want to give real details. But with components being hard to come by, and who knows who's going to be on what fabs doing what and building, like all of that sort of stuff. PlayStation 6 will have to compete with a year of iPhone shipping and whatever AI fuckery is coming our way. There's so many things that are going to be making it harder for these assembly lines to be devoted to building PlayStation 6s, at least at a reasonable price. Obviously that stuff it makes sense that they would say, hey, this is up in the air, and that they are investigating ways to reduce the cost of hardware in other areas. I don't know what you do. Does it come in a cardboard box? Hey, industrial design wise, we did not waste a bunch of time making a big, swoopy, smooth looking box. are they going to just repurpose PlayStation 5 shells and go like, yeah, I don't know, this is a way to make it cheaper. Like, this is one less thing we have to worry about. Like, probably not. But you know what I mean, right? Like, when they talk about like, hey, we're looking for other ways to kind of reduce costs. Like, I don't really know. I don't really know what you do to dramatically lower the cost of a PlayStation 6. Of course, there is the rumor that they're going to make more than one of them, and that one will be less powerful, and it will also be a handheld. And so, like, screen technology and getting your hands on screens and stuff is not that big of a deal. And so potentially he could be pointing at the idea of like, hey, we're going to also release a handheld, and that's going to be less money, and that's going to be this. And, there's other options on that front. But yeah, I don't know. It's obviously a very tricky dance that they are all having to do in the middle of all of this. Meanwhile, on the software side, we've got some signs of hope / optimism. Even Christian Svensson, who runs third party for PlayStation out of the US, appeared on The Game Business, and so he manages like the third party portfolio, and so part of that is like, hey, you're the team that does these co-marketing deals with someone like Rockstar to like, hey, we're gonna do this to make sure you get this, and are your games still coming here? Do you need kind of developer interface stuff? Is there anything you need from our end? Like that type of like management of these like relationship management in a lot of cases. He's in that type of role. He manages a team of people that do that, the different people working on different companies are working with different companies to bring their games to PlayStation. It's a very traditional role. Anyway, Sven was on the Game Business podcast and gave a pretty interesting quote about kind of the next handful of years of games, at least as far as games coming to PlayStation. He says, I'm in an incredibly privileged position to have amazing visibility into what games will be for the next 3, 4, and 5 years. I literally cannot explain to you. Last year was an amazing year for games. This year will be even better. Next year will be better still. The trajectory of content is unbelievably positive, and we as an industry should be super optimistic about where we're going in spite of the headwinds. And so, like people in the chat are noting that he said the word content. I mean, yeah, that's his business. He's like he's in the business of meeting with people and making sure that all of that content comes to the platform. It's a content management position. It's a business role. It's what he does. It's exactly what he does. But like that's an interesting, I guess like that's a very normal situation, right? And this is kind of what I was talking about coming out of DICE. When I went to DICE and I said like people like there's obviously like people have been beat up and beat around a little bit, but like there's an optimism there. There's a feeling of like, okay, I think we're gonna figure this out. This is kind of what I am getting at to a certain degree there. There are a lot of third parties working on a lot of games that will come to all platforms. This isn't even him saying this in a strictly PlayStation exclusive kind of role. And obviously he runs third parties. So this is not him talking about the first party slate, which he would have limited visibility into, assuming that they still run things there the way that they have in years past. And so, like, what he's doing, part of his role is he's going out and he meets with Take-Two, he meets with EA, he meets with all of these companies, big and small. When you meet with Sony at something like GDC, you are probably meeting with Christian Svensson or definitely someone on his team. When you're talking about, hey, here are the games we have coming up and whatever else. And so, yeah, he is extremely in a position to know here's what the slates look like for the next handful of years. So like that's not in quite like, you know, he is definitely a guy who would know that sort of stuff. And that's good to hear. Obviously, like, plans change, right? Like, some of these games will get canceled, some of these games will get delayed, some of the, you know, like things will happen, right? And so he's not sitting there saying guaranteed this game's gonna hit, or, you know, like, but it seems like he's seen enough of everyone's pipeline to at least say, hey, there's a lot of great stuff coming. And he's saying this in a business context on a podcast about the game business. And so this isn't something that's meant to be some forward-facing rah PlayStation kind of thing. He is merely talking about third parties are making some really great games. Now, obviously, the overwhelming majority of those games will come to Xbox and PC because third parties just be doing that, you know. It is still good to hear that there's reasons for optimism out there, but I guess like the reality that pushes up against this, which is something that is outside of Kristen Svensson's control, is, again, the availability of the PlayStation 5, the price of the PlayStation 5, all of that sort of stuff is something that is going to drag on. There's almost a nightmare scenario here where, like, the consoles have been out now for, like, what, 6 years? So we should really be hitting a stride, right? Developers know what they're doing. They know how to get the most out of this generation of consoles. They know the types of games they can get away with making. And so this should be traditionally, this many years in on a cycle is where you're making most of your money. Because, you know, you've figured out your R&D costs and like all that stuff's done. And companies are just like, all right, let's make some fucking games. And then they just continue to churn out games every holiday for, you know, another 3 years or so before a new generation comes out and we start all over again. But like these should be the like salad days of, hey man, let's just make some fucking great games that look good, run well, all of that, and just get them out there. And ideally, in years past, that groundswell, or that swell of like increasingly, you know, like maybe less expensive to make in some situations because you've just figured out a lot of things out with your engine, and so there's a lot of R&D and tech stuff that you're just like done with on the kind of game development side, or just on the like, hey, these consoles have become cheaper because you know, the price has been cut a couple of times, and so there's like, you know, even more people buying these platforms and coming through the door, and they're ready to buy these games. Like all of that stuff normally would converge in a way that is favorable to everyone. PlayStation sells more consoles. I mean, actually, console manufacturers, in a general sense, sell more consoles. Game developers make more games. Game developers are able to make more money off of their games, and all of it kind of helps the back half of a console cycle become like a pretty profitable place. And so this weird thing we're seeing is like, yeah, it looks like on the software side, I mean, you know, again, taking what Svensson is saying here at face value, that's happening. But the console hasn't gotten any cheaper, and obviously, like, the economy is still, you know, kind of you know, real fucking shit show, you know, sort of situation here. And so you have this drag on all of that. And so like, I'm excited as someone who already owns a lot of console hardware. You know, like I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 3, 4, and 5 years of games look like, from what he is describing. But like in terms of favorability for the video game industry and, you know, how many consoles are going to sell and all the other stuff, like I think that is the stuff that is still like, those are the headwinds that he's referring to, right? But this the kind of mirrors the general attitude I got out of, you know, people, including Christian Svensson, when I talked to a handful of people at DICE, just in kind of a general sense, you know, that people felt pretty good. Like obviously it's been a hard handful of years and there's some hard shit ahead for sure. But that generally speaking, you know, like there will still be a video game industry. You know, there was like that stuff's still gonna get made. That stuff's still gonna happen. They'll figure it out. That's sort of my feeling coming out of DICE for sure. But yeah, I think that the hardware side and the availability and everything else, and I think a lot of that stuff is still very tricky, obviously. And we'll see where it all goes. Let's take one more break here. We'll come back and continue through the news. Hey, if your hair is thinning out and you want to do something about that, do it now. Don't wait. Hair loss doesn't fix itself. The earlier you act, the better. Hims makes starting simple with a 100% online process and personalized treatment plans delivered straight to you. Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. They've got doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil. They can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. You know, you shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. To find the right hair regrowth treatment for you with flexible subscription options, access to 24/7 provider support, and once-a-day treatment options that fit your daily routine. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/Jeff. That's hims.com/Jeff for your free online visit. hims.com/Jeff. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Sega has killed the Super Game. Just this morning, we got some, because part of kind of this cavalcade of financial reports and earnings calls and what have you. We got some information about what Sega is into. They are still working on reboots, remakes, whatever you want to, reboots, I guess, of Streets of Rage, Jet Set Radio, Golden Axe, and Crazy Taxi. But Super Game is no longer in development. This just showed up on a slide. They put out their earnings call, and there's just kind of like a little footnote like, what happened this fiscal quarter? We ceased development on the Super Game, and that's that. No further costs will be incurred as a result of the development of Super Game. We still don't really know what the Super Game was supposed to be. Other than when they said Super Game, they were referring to it as something that would be like, this is a really big global launch. In a lot of cases, it was thought to be a free-to-play game that might bring together, multiple kind of Sega properties, like a la Fortnite, like not necessarily a shooter or a battle royale, but also fucking maybe, I don't know. But yes, they have pulled back from whatever the hell the Super Game was. Also, they're kind of it looks like they are pulling back a little bit from free-to-play game development in a general sense in favor of some of these other these reboots that they have in development. You'll remember, I think it was just last week we were talking about the No Old Stay Gold website that Sega put up to try to remind you, hey man, we got some games, we have a bunch of old video games and we're going to make those again, or whatever it was. But I suspect we'll hear more about Sega's lineup in the relatively near future. I mean, they kind of have they're due to announce this stuff or show it in a real way, because they haven't really shown anything of these supposed reboots, anything of note here. They just kind of gave a 1-sentence description on a website, and they revealed that they were making them, but even that was now, according to VGC, that was 2023 that they announced that stuff. That hey, we're gonna make a new Crazy Taxi, which the description there was innovative and fresh style driving action. Cheerful feeling of freedom crossed with a fusion of nature and city. which, you know, like, well, okay, sure, whatever the fuck that means. And I think Streets of Rage is a really weird one to, you know, to think about, like, hey, we're going to make a new Streets of Rage. Like, okay, you did that. Are these games going to be big or are they going to be small? I think, you know, like because them getting along, you know, announced sort of alongside the quote unquote super game, and because of the way that Sega has put a focus on this, I think a lot of people are looking at this and thinking, well, obviously this is going to be bigger than just like Streets of Rage 4 or whatever. And are they going to remake it in some kind of big expensive AAA kind of you know, budget kind of thing? I don't even understand what that would be. Other than that doesn't sound very good. But as someone who was, you know, I was there the last time that everyone tried to spin their side-scrolling beat-em-up belt scrollers into like full-on polygonal video games, and, you know, no one wants to play Fighting Force again. So yeah, I don't know what you do there. I guess we'll see. Jet Set Radio, I think, could be really cool. You know, like, ironically, Jet Set Radio, not great games. Amazing soundtrack, amazing look, amazing vibe, amazing like control wise, kind of interesting, but like progressing through Jet Set Radio, going from one level to the next, completing tasks and all of that other stuff, like not always a great game. And so I actually think revisiting Jet Set Radio, you do stand to fix all that stuff. You know, Jet Set Radio Future, I think they did. Jet Set Radio Future feels like a game made by people who understood the issues with the original Jet Set Radio, but I don't know, maybe not quite far enough in any one direction here. Curious to see what they end up showing for any of that other stuff, and you know, I would love to know what the super game actually was, because it just sounds like the whole thing was just such a ridiculous secretive announcement of like, we're gonna make a really big game, it's gonna be the super game. Like, what do you mean? You're just pirates, you fuck a skeleton, you do anything, it's a super game. It's just like a really weird thing. Katsuhiro Harada has landed. He of Tekken fame has started a new studio called the VS Studio. It is a studio owned and funded by SNK. So yeah. 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 Harada will be the CEO of this new studio. They're referring to it often as SNK VS Studio, and he put out a video where he's like, oh, VS could mean a lot of different things, like video game soft, or, you know, versus. Presumably he will make a fighting game, but they didn't really get into too much detail into that. You know, obviously SNK has made some fighting games relatively recently. They did that City of the Wolves game. Like, maybe Harada will just put you know, the Saudi royal family directly into the game instead of like DJs and soccer players that they like. You know, I'd say maybe he could make a LIV golf game, but it seems like that's not long for this world. Maybe they'll land the WWE license or something cool like that. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of a bummer. Also, you know, at some point, it does make sense to move on. Harada, I do not know Katsuhiro Harada. I think we may have spoken once or twice over the years, but you know, he always struck me as with the way he carried himself as someone who cared a great deal about not just Tekken, but as he kind of like started filling a larger role in the Namco organization. He seems like the sort of guy that would butt up against the limits of what he was capable of doing. with regard to like, hey man, let's do a new Ridge Racer, or let's maintain these classic, fantastic Namco franchises. It just seems like as a business, Namco doesn't really have the interest level in pursuing that sort of stuff. And so at some point that probably you probably eventually reach a point with that where you're like, I need to fucking leave because I'm losing my fucking mind, butting my head against this brick wall. So, you know, good on him to get out there and start a new studio. Not like this stuff, man. Especially at a time when it often feels like some of these Saudi owned, like the Saudi game investments feel like a little bit frail. I don't know. Like there's aspects of like the Saudi royal family's investments that feel more temporary than maybe they did a handful of months ago with some of the sporting stuff, with some of the golf stuff specifically sounding like it might be winding down or whatever, and that maybe they are being a little bit more careful about the sort of stuff they invest in. Like you do start to wonder, like, what are you going to really do with SNK? You know, maybe they have a long-term strat. I mean, obviously, like they own Evo now too, so you know, winning hearts and minds to love Saudi Arabia through the magic of fighting game esports seems like a really fucking weird way to go. But I guess that seems like something they might try. It's gross. It's gross is what it is. It's gross. But here we are. We have heard we now know who will be inducted, which video games will be inducted into the National Museum of Play's Hall of Fame over there at the Strong in New York. They have announced this year's inductees. This is from a pretty large list of finalists, but they have plucked 4 games and brought them into their Hall of Fame. Those 4 games are Angry Birds, Dragon Quest, FIFA International Soccer, and Silent Hill. I think those are like all relevant choices. I think those all make total sense. Like FIFA obviously is not made anymore, but like FIFA is a, you know, like for the decade plus, no, longer than that, right? I mean, they made FIFA for 93 until 2023. So, you know, 30 years of FIFA games, 30 years of the biggest sports game in the world. I think honoring Angry Birds is correct. When you think about Angry Birds, the impact that Angry Birds did have on mobile gaming. I think now like the story of Rovio is like sort of it has a different tone to it, right? Because it really feels like, hey, Angry Birds was a big runaway hit, and then they tried to make more of them, and it didn't. They tried to like, hey, let's make another big game, and discover that it is not as easy as doing it once to suddenly do it again. But like Angry Birds as a franchise, they went on to make, and they made like a movie, right? I mean, you know, like Angry Birds merchandised very well, and it did a lot of licensing stuff, and was a very, very, very big deal. Such that like Sega bought them, right? Like Sega bought Rovio, and now seems to understand that like past performance in the mobile sector does not guarantee future success. I'm sure Angry Birds probably does some decent business still to this day, right? All these years later. But yeah, Rovio didn't exactly like immediately go like, here's another one, here's another great one. Like, oh, they're like, oh, maybe we can put, you know, some Sega characters into Angry Birds, and then they put the Angry Birds into that driving game that they put the Sega racing game. But the overall relevance of Angry Birds these days is quite a bit less. But 2009 was a long time ago, and was, I think, one of the big early examples of just massive, massive, massive mobile games. Yeah. Dragon Quest, I think, speaks for itself, right? Like, how do you have a credible Hall of Fame if Dragon Quest isn't in it? I mean, they're still making them to this day, but the impact of Dragon Quest on video gaming as it initially surfaced cannot be overstated. You know, like that whole franchise is just, you know, especially the early days of it, one landmark event after another. Like these days, the new releases of Dragon Quest may not have the same impact as they did in their heyday or whatever, but like they kind of wrote the book for how to do this when it comes to, you know, like putting role-playing games onto consoles and finding ways to consoleize the experience without having a keyboard in front of you the way, you know, Wizardry or some of this other stuff did. Like Dragon Quest did some amazing work. And Silent Hill, yeah, sure. I don't know. Why not? Silent Hill, you know, like they I mean, Silent Hill made a creepier style of horror game than what Resident Evil was doing. And I think that's probably the interesting thing about it, is that it did feel oftentimes a little more like, I guess psychological would be the word you would use for Silent Hill. And that certainly made an impact. There was a brief period of time where, you know, Silent Hill and Resident Evil were kind of in the same sentence. It's cool that they can still make Silent Hill games and that they are well received, I suppose, and that's kind of awesome. Danigan asks, is Steel a Brain Rot going to be in the Hall of Fame in 10 years? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wonder, you know, like, not obviously, like, Steel a Brain Rot, the individual Roblox experience would not go into the strong Hall of Fame. But Roblox, I almost wrote even more about Roblox. I put some thoughts together about the Steam controller and some other stuff and posted them over on the Patreon at jeff.zone. And that very nearly had a solid middle chunk thinking a little bit more about Roblox. And I think that, like, unless something happens with Roblox to where it gets probably what it deserves, which is to say, people realize how predatory that product is on multiple levels, and it kind of gets, you know, drummed out of existence by lawsuits or you know, or whatever, good taste, you know, whatever you want to call it. Like, there's the impact of Roblox is certainly Hall of Fame worthy, if they could get away from all of that stuff. But I think all of that stuff is inherent to the experience and inherent to the way that they make money on the labor of Roblox creators. I started digging into the way that Roblox games monetize, and found like some really fucking shitty numbers that help kind of paint the picture of why Roblox games upsell the way they do and why all of them are built the way they are built. Which I think there's multiple factors there, but part of it is like, you get paid if the thing you made in Roblox is the first thing that a user spends 10 minutes on in a day. Meaning maybe they launch your thing, they go play something else, they come back and play your thing again. Like, if you are the first thing on a user's profile to reach 10 minutes, you get 5 Robux, which is like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 cents. So if someone plays your game for 9 minutes and then plays someone else's game for 10 minutes, the one that gets to 10 gets that money, not you. Um, there's also stuff where like they count active users as users who have monetized within the last 60 days, meaning users that have spent money on the platform in the last 60 days. So a purely free user generates no revenue for the creators. From as far as I can tell, it is not the cleanest and clearest written documentation. And so there's a lot of stuff, and then there's stuff around like bringing users in, like user acquisition. Like if someone clicks on a direct link to your game, your Roblox game, and then they sign up for Roblox right then and there, that's where you start to make actual fucking money on a user, is because you get like a chunk of money right there, and then you get a cut of any money they spend on the platform for like the next 60 days or something. And so if you can bring a user to Roblox, meaning either a brand new user or someone who has not been on the platform in like 2 or 3 months, if you bring them back, then Roblox will start to pay you. Of course, then all the games start to monetize and try to get you to spend money on like all of these convenience items. Like, you know, hey, what if you could walk at a decent speed instead of this like artificially slow speed that this game's creator put in? Or like, you know, like you start to see why they are the way they are. And also it made me start to wonder, and I don't want to spend too much more time on this today, but you start to notice a similarity between all of the Roblox experiences in a handful of ways. Like there's an expectation of like weekly updates. There's a thing you can put in your game. Hey, the next update's coming in 5 days. And so all of these games have countdown timers to when the next update is hitting. And there's a whole notification system that like if you're playing it on your phone, I guess, you can get notified like this event is live. And so all of these games are like really, really shitty treadmills, really broken, slow moving treadmills. And you make progress as you play the game. And you have a ton of opportunities to improve the experience and make more progress. But all of these games have infinite progress in theory. So like, who cares? And so all of it is like, okay, well, if I spend $3 here, then I don't have to click to collect my money. I'll just automatically get my money in this game. If I spend this here, I'll get double XP. If I do this, I'll get this. And if I do this, it'll increase my run speed, and do this, it'll do this. And so all of these games have these hooks built in where like all of them are shitty, and you have to pay money to build it into a more reasonable experience, which is obviously ridiculous. Plus there's an expectation from the users that you are updating your game on a regular basis. Like weekly seems to be the standard. And because of the way all of that stuff monetizes, if you don't fucking update your game, they will go find another game. And so there have become all of these standardized terms. You know, a lot of idle games, incremental games have the idea of starting over. Like you push a button and you reset all your progress, but you get a bonus that makes it, you know, that you're still more powerful or whatever. The term in Roblox that is used pretty consistently is rebirth, and no one deviates from that. It is always rebirth. It is never prestige. It is never, you know, reset or anything like that. It is always rebirth. And so you fill a meter to a certain number, and you can rebirth to get ×2 money and start over again and go. And you see these standards emerge across all of these other games that are like crazy, where it's like, okay, here's, you know, now more and more of them have individual codes. Like, oh, here's a special, with this update, we put cool new codes in the game that, you know, if you enter this code into the shop interface, you get a free, you know, $200 in-game money, you know, like you get some in-game item. And that's becoming increasingly standard. But also, you know, like for a lot of the way the games monetize and a lot of the other, like you also have this like concept of an admin panel and the idea of admin abuse. So like they want to find a way to get a groundswell of players onto the platform playing their game, always relatively early-ish in the morning, before noon it seems to be, without exception, at least here in this time zone. And so most of the games I've seen will be like, oh, every Saturday morning is when the update hits, and this Saturday we're gonna do admin abuse. And so if you're here for the first hour after the update hits, the people who make the game will be jumping on servers and just like letting it rain down. They'll be giving out free things to players, and there'll be all these crazy events. And so they try to build these events around their updates so that they can get a larger number of players into the game at this exact moment. And they all do it relatively early in the morning, at least, again, here in this time zone, probably because they want to be your first 10 minutes of the day on top of everything else. And it is like insidious. Like a lot of these games have built their own language, and a lot of these games have built, like Roblox itself has this language of monetization that has become standard, where you see the words OP on things. And they're trying to sell you things and try to say, this is OP. Like, you need to buy this item because it's fucking overpowered and you're going to break the game. And all of this stuff is like super dumb. And you look at it and go like, who would fall for this? And then you remember like, oh, dude, like all of these people are fucking kids. Like it's all like children who like are going to look at it and go like, I need to get the OP fucking item, man. And oh, they put a new gun in this game and they say it's OP. So like they're literally advertising an item, which by and large isn't always the case, depending on how much progress you've made in the game. It isn't always overpowered. And so it's like they're advertising items as like breaking the game. Or like, you're going to get access to the admin panel that lets you troll other players. And it's like, that's not really the admin panel. They just call it that so you could feel like, oh, I can kick people out of the game. I can do this, like that you have some power that the other people don't because you spent $7. It's fucking crazy. Roblox is really impressive. Roblox is intensely impressive, but for none of the reasons that they want it to be. And it's a shame, because I think there are things about Roblox that are really fucking interesting. And the further democratization of game making tools and some of the other, like there's things about Roblox that I think are incredibly fascinating and would be a lot easier to celebrate if not for how they're using it and how it is actually built and how it actually rolls out. And so like that stuff is really again, we won't spend too much more time on it. Like that stuff is like scary when you really start to look at it, and you really start to look at like how all of the people making the games have to kind of optimize in favor of what the player base has been trained to expect. And so if you want to have a successful Roblox game, you kind of need to check all these boxes on the way there. And so like it's really fucking interesting. Perhaps less interesting, Xbox Game Pass has come to Discord Nitro, and also Discord Nitro will be coming to Xbox Game Pass in some form. This is a press release that went up on Xbox Wire, though it did roll out onto Discord today. I'm currently looking at the Discord page here for it. It is not full on Ultimate Game Pass. It is some lower tier version of it that gets you over 50 games. The ones they're advertising here are Stardew Valley, Fallout 4, and Grounded. You get 10 hours of Xbox Cloud gaming every month. And you get Xbox rewards, all yours with Nitro. Nitro, they have a page for your Nitro benefits now on the Discord client, where now you can also get 30% off Logitech. Like every month you get a discount code that you can use for 30% off some Logitech stuff or some Steel Series stuff. Which Plex used to do stuff like that. It was like if you were a lifetime subscriber, if you were a subscriber to the Plex Pass thing, it would be like every month they would give you a discount code that you could use to buy hard drives. And sometimes that was actually like a decent deal where I would go buy a bunch of hard drives from Western Digital directly through this like Plex discount code or whatever. But like how much fucking Logitech shit do you need that this is something where they're like, you're going to get 30% off every month? I'm not buying something from Logitech every month. Are you high? Like, what is that? That's useless. Give me one discount and then move on. What is crazy? The Xbox partnership specifically is that if you're paying for Discord Nitro, you will get the starter edition of Xbox Game Pass. And then on the other end of that, they say coming soon, so this stuff isn't available. But I guess if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you will get Discord Nitro benefits as part of the partnership later this month. This includes strap in for rewards. Get ready for rewards. Get ready to be rewarded, because every month you will receive 250 orbs. That's right. Orbs. 250 of them. Also, when you complete quests on Discord, which is watching ads, if you watch an ad on Discord, you will get 1.2x extra orbs when you complete said quests. I know. Can you believe it? There will also be some discounts in the Discord shop. You know, the Discord rolling out a rewards program, which is basically what this is. That they're kind of they're bolting some stuff onto Discord Nitro. Not the worst idea in the world. But so far, I feel like they have done nothing to make orbs worth something. Orbs are a currency you earn on Discord for watching ads and some other stuff, and now you will get them on a monthly basis, I guess. And the orbs can be used to buy some, but not all, cosmetics in the Discord shop. That's right. I don't know if you know that. They sell cosmetics in the Discord shop for, like, if you want a cool ring that appears around your profile icon or a background, or, you know, like some other stuff like that. You can do that. You know, sort of like some of the Steam shop profile upgrades and you know, like it's not unlike some other services that are out there. I just don't think the Discord has done it very well so far to date. Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but like a lot of games have leaked out. Like a lot of games. Let's take one more break. We'll come back. We'll talk about leaked video games after this. Getting something new off the ground can be tricky. There's just a lot of work that goes into all of the ins and outs of it. You might know, like, hey, the core of my business is going to be this. I'm going to be selling this. But then you got to figure out, how do I promote it? How do I sell it? How do I get it in front of people? It can be a real hassle. That's why it's great when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all e-commerce in the US comes through Shopify. You get started with your own design studio. They have hundreds of ready-to-use templates. So Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. They will also accelerate your efficiency. Whether you're uploading new products or trying to improve existing ones, Shopify has tools that'll help you get where you need to go. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. You can easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. That's right. Shopify will also help you keep track of your inventory, even if you're selling stuff in a physical space in addition to selling it online. It's awesome. Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And if you get stuck, Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Jeff. Go to shopify.com/Jeff. Again, that's shopify.com/Jeff. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight was briefly playable due to some kind of preload error on the Xbox. This is according to VideoGamesChronicle.com. You're home for the news. But it sounds like people went to go pre-download it because the game is out pretty soon. And after they finished the download, noticed like, oh, wait, the game just launched. They've since fixed the issue, but some players were able to get in there and play some of the game ahead of time. I wonder, if you unplug your Xbox from the internet, maybe you were out there still playing it. But that is just the tip of the fucking leaksberg on this one. The early access build of Subnautica 2 leaked out a handful of days before that's supposed to debut. It is easy to want to say, well, there's been enough weird court cases and disgruntled shit happening around Subnautica 2 that maybe someone leaked it out there. A game called Directive 8020, similar type of situation where it got out there. And the biggest one is probably Forza Horizon 6, which will be available later this week. I don't know. That's this is largely unheard of in a single sense, and so the idea that we've got 4 such instances all in relatively short time frame is kind of fucking bananas. Forza got out there, and the Xbox kind of got out there and said, hey, if we catch you playing this thing or streaming it or whatever, we're going to give you hardware bans. We're going to ban you across the entire Forza franchise, which the idea of a franchise ban I find very funny. Like, just fucking ban them from all of Xbox. Like, don't go like, we're not going to let you play another Forza game. Like, what do you... Why split hairs at that point? Right? Just fucking ban them all the way if you can catch them. I don't know. So initially the reporting said that this was that perhaps an unencrypted build of the game was uploaded to Steam. This was the initial reporting. Said like, oh, they uploaded an unencrypted build of the game to Steam and someone grabbed it before it was replaced with an encrypted build because they're going to do preloads or whatever. And so as a result, people were able to get a hold of the game's files and crack off the Steam DRM and go and do it. That Microsoft has pushed back against that a little bit and said this is not something that happened on our end due to this. And so I don't know. I don't think anyone has gotten really specific about what happened here. But who knows? Like, ultimately, I guess like that part of it is only secondary when it comes to interest. I've been playing the game. I have not seen the game on Steam. I've been playing it via the Xbox store, so I don't know. But it sounds like the version of the game that is out there is some kind of Steam version of the game. So yeah, I don't know. That's really crazy. I don't know. Like, we're really close to the actual release of the game, and I feel like when we talk about leaks and everything in the run up to a game's release, it's people that get a hold of physical copies of a game and are able to play it and stream it ahead of launch. And the leaks are like video, not the entire fucking game. Holy shit. That's pretty wild to have happened this close to the actual release of the game. Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty crazy one. I don't know. Like I think we were talking about it last week. I just don't. I mean, I would never have a need to do anything like that. But also like the so much PC stuff is so sketchy. I don't know, like downloading executables from sketchy places just seems like so not. I don't know. I would never want to deal with that anymore. It just seems like fucking ridiculous. You just go randomly download things from, you know, torrents or whatever, and just like, yeah, I'll just run this. It's not full of malware. It's all fine. But I guess like all the malware stuff is all like supply chain attacks. Like there was a couple of other things like JDownloader and Daemon Tools. Daemon Tools Pro both had malware injected into their official regular fucking installs. And so they had to issue these like, hey, if you downloaded this app from us on this day and this day, then you got the heebie-jeebies. You've got a case of the fucking, you've got the digital clap. Like all of that fucking crazy shit. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's it just fucking be careful. Be smart. Takashi Tezuka is retiring from Nintendo. This was something that was confirmed as part of Nintendo's financial results. Is that he will be retiring from his role as executive officer on June 26th of this year. He is 65 years of age, according to Video Games Chronicle. And that is it. They also note that is kind of Nintendo's typical retirement age. Tezuka is his name is on, gosh, everything. You know, this was sometimes thought of as, you know, it's like him and Miyamoto were kind of in lockstep in a lot of ways. It's every time this happens, you know, this is now like I think the third or fourth kind of like big name Nintendo person that is retired from the company. And then I look at something like Star Fox and I just go, ugh. You wonder, you know, you start to wonder, like, will Nintendo be able to maintain? I think they've maintained relatively well over the decades, and you could say that you know, you could argue either, right? That like, oh, Nintendo's vision is due to these people who have been there for all of these years, and they are true visionaries, and they did have ideas for this, and that they've done this for decades, and they've you know, that they've continued to kind of hold the torch for this stuff and really kind of, you know, keep it together and think about this in a long-term, long view that a lot of other game developers simply cannot afford to do. And what happens when those people, those torch holders, you know, what happens when they decide to step away from the company? Or you could look at it as like, hey, these people have been here a long time and we need some fresh ideas. We need someone to come in here and mix it up. We need someone who can come in here and make massive changes because like we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I don't think Nintendo is in that bucket. I don't think they're really out there kind of doing the same thing over and over again. I think you do see a handful of games out of Nintendo's first party that you just go like, yeah, man, I don't know. But like, I feel like they've done pretty good, like with Succession. Like they've done pretty good at kind of bringing people up along the way. But Tezuka, I mean, his credits are, gosh, you know, Doki Doki Panic, you know, Excite Bike. He did some of the graphics for Super Mario Brothers, the original, you know. He is 1010 in the credits of The Legend of Zelda. He's the designer of The Legend of Zelda, the original one, you know. designed levels for Mario 3. Eventually, moved into more of a producer role and, has been on a zillion games as a supervisor or director or producer. Everything from Pikmin 2 to Animal Crossing to all of these Zelda games to Mario RPG to, Breath of the Wild, Mario and Luigi Brothership. And so that's a massive catalog, like the people that made some of these, that made some of the games that made gaming happen, right? I mean, Super Mario Brothers, you can't really, we would not be here without Nintendo, ultimately. Without the folks at Nintendo that found a way to bring gaming back to the US. I think Nintendo of America, I think, you probably give them a lot of credit on that for the work that they did, the inroads they made, all of the other stuff that they did to kind of help retailers get comfortable with the idea of video games again after getting burned by Atari. But it was the software that made all of that happen, right? It was the idea that you could come to people with Super fucking Mario Brothers and go, check this shit out. I still remember the first time I saw Super Mario Brothers at the 7-Eleven that was on the way out to the shooting range that me and my dad would go shoot guns at. We would stop and get, like, one time I got chocolate milk and chocolate donuts, and I ate it all really fast in the car and then threw up out the window. But yeah, it was a 7-Eleven, and so they had a couple of arcade machines there, and they had Versus Super Mario Brothers. This was, like, I think before anyone would have known what a fucking Nintendo was, because they had not been released widely. They had not, like, it was, and so, like, seeing that thing and being like my approach was, holy shit, there's a new Mario Brothers. Like, they made a sequel to Mario Brothers. I can't believe it. Like, Mario Brothers fucking rules. And then seeing that game and seeing the pipes that you could go down and the shit you could do and how it was not much like the original Mario Brothers. And being fucking blown away by just how fucking big Mario got. That motherfucker was big. And then getting access to the NES and playing Super Mario Brothers on that, and then noticing, like, oh, this game is, like, there's holes in the, like having versus Super Mario Brothers, the harder one, be the first game one that I saw is kind of strange, because then you're like, oh man, okay, there's like blocks missing from this, and then years later realizing why is kind of exciting too. But yeah, these are people that invented the fucking wheel and then invented it again. The NES brought the video game industry back here in the States in a lot of ways. And then, a couple of generations later, they would be figuring out how to make all of this stuff work in a polygonal way with Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time and writing new blueprints for a lot of other developers to learn from and follow as a result of those games. Like, it's hard to, I mean, like, there are certainly better games than all of those, I guess, if you want to get technical about it. But, like, dude, in terms of impact, and in terms of impact that, we are still benefiting from today in some way, shape, or form, like, it doesn't get much fucking bigger than that. Right? And so, like, it's very Nintendo. It's very, just a Japanese company in general for them to just kind of, like, mention this as something of a footnote in their earnings call. Oh, by the way, This dude's retiring. It's that, you know, like, again, there's just the fucking resume speaks for itself. The producer of Clubhouse Games, 51 worldwide classics. That's right. They're letting him step away from the company. One of the developers of Captain Rainbow. One of the developers of Devil World. Someone who was thanked in the credits for Stretch Mo. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. At some point, you perhaps start to feel a little old or something yourself. But yeah, he's one on a very short list of people who, you know, like, worked on such important games. That it's extremely notable that he is stepping away from the company. And that's going to do it for the news. I don't know, like the producer of the Mortal Kombat 2 movie was out on Twitter complaining about reviews, which I thought was funny. Like, that's maybe not. But like, I don't know. He was kind of. There's a quote here that VGC found as he was complaining about some of these reviews are cracking. Todd Garner is the name of the producer. Some of these reviews are cracking me up. It's clear that they never played the game and have no idea what the fans want or any of the rules or canon of Mortal Kombat. One reviewer was mad that a guy had a laser eye. Why the fuck do we still allow people that don't have any love for the genre review these movies? Baffling. Well, Todd, I mean, the reason you do that is because, like, other people might see these fucking movies, you know? Like, are you so small-minded that you only want people who play the games to see the movies? Like, why would you restrict it in such a way? Wouldn't you want to be making a movie that, like, anyone could kind of theoretically enjoy? Like, I don't know. It seems like a thing you would do instead of, like, acting like a weird asshole about reviews of a game. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Is you put it out there, and that's a valid approach. You know, there's probably still more people out there somehow that are not familiar with Mortal Kombat than those that are. So a review from someone who doesn't have that foregone knowledge of why Kano is the way he is, and most people who know Mortal Kombat probably don't know why Kano has a fucking laser eye. They just know that he does. It's kind of a fucking ridiculous thing. And then, as VGC notes, someone took him to task on Twitter as a result of this. The guy's name is Dude Guy 29, who wrote, "Bro, to be fair, you invented Cole Young, Arcana, and couldn't even get the simple lore of Melina and Katana correct. I'd say you shouldn't be tossing any stones here." And he replied, "Fair." Fuck that guy. Anyway, I want to see that movie. I think it, you know, like, it sounds fine. I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to fucking leave the house again and actually go see a movie, but we'll see. That's gonna actually do it for the news. Let's get into some emails here. podcast@guard.bike is the email address for you to send me emails. And these people have, and if my email ever loads up, I will tell you what they had to say. David in Cambridge writes in and says, Dreams meets Roblox. Occasionally I check in on Dreams for the PlayStation. The last time I checked in, alongside the Five Nights at Freddy's projects, was an awful lot of Roblox-looking projects. This puzzled me. If these kids have access to Roblox, a free platform, wouldn't it make more sense to make stuff there? Rather than this old, no longer supported creation tool on your dad's PlayStation, what's next? Are the brain rots coming to Project Spark? Freddy Fazbear in Load Runner? Skibbity Toilets Make My Video? Yeah. You know, the brain rots. The brain rots will infest any platform that will have them. You know, they're all over Fortnite. They're all over. I don't know. Like the people that are still playing Dreams seem like an especially weird bunch. It's a shame because I think Dreams, the pitch for Dreams was incredibly strong. Like the demo I took for Dreams, sitting down and messing with those tools for the first time was a very strong pitch. You look at it and go like, wow, these tools are crazy. I think even then, though, like it definitely had a feeling of like I probably could use these to make something. I'm not going to because I don't have the patience or the time or anything to actually do that. But you know, like realistically, but hey, this seems well made. With Dreams, it just I don't know. It seemed like that they had this idea that you know maybe someday you could play these things outside of Dreams, and then that never came to fruition, and you know the whole thing kind of they never closed the loop on Dreams. Like the thing about Dreams is if they'd come up with a way for people to monetize the stuff they made and either you know have a section of the PlayStation Store devoted to Dreams creations, or you know like build some kind of creator fund or whatever that some of these other you know when you look at Sandbox or when you look at Roblox, when you look at UEFN, like you see ways for players to be incentivized to make this stuff, and that could have been, I mean, that would have been a big mess. Like it's not easy to put that sort of project together, and Dreams never had the numbers to make it worthwhile. But I feel like you shouldn't have launched that thing if you didn't have that as like a okay, and we're gonna get here, and we're definitely getting here, and so we need to figure out all the legal stuff because I think that thing doesn't reach escape velocity without a way to show the creations to a larger group of people. But yeah, it's just a hard sell. But you know, and also it's only on PlayStation, and so if you had access to those tools on a PC and can make stuff on a PC, maybe that would have helped too. But like, yeah, there are a billion little reasons, and some little, some big, as to why Dreams just didn't catch on. But yeah. Andy writes in, I just played my last game of Marathon. I realized that the other players were getting too good and powerful and that my time needed to end. I got all my best gear, went out on a run, and got annihilated by a passing crew. I feel at peace with the end. It's a neat game, but this is where I get off. Do you think you'll stick with it? Andy, like they're going to wipe the server. It's not too far off. Like season 2 is going to start and put everyone back on a level playing field. Like you're fucking primed to get back into Marathon, like in a pretty short chunk of time here, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like, do I think I'll stick with it? I have been playing less of Marathon lately, but that's mostly just because I've been busy with other stuff. I'm still thinking about it a lot. I am relatively low level. I am still not high enough level to even attempt the Cryo Archive. And so that means I am not at level 25 yet, for those of you playing along at home. I don't know. I've still been having a good time with it. I have still been finding my specific types of success when I play the game, and have been doing fine. I wish, like, that's a game that I wish that I could like just dive into and play a ton of and everything, but yeah, it's a serious game. It is a game that definitely, like, when I stop playing it, I need to stop playing games for the night. And so when I have all of these other games that I am playing and covering and do all this other stuff, it can be hard to it can be hard to be able to put the time in that I wish I could. But yeah, I don't know. Every time I dip back into it, My only thought is like, man, I wish I could play another 1,000 hours of this right now. But I cannot, and so I've made peace with that as well. I'm kind of curious to see what they do with the next season, and I'm curious to see what the trajectory of that game will be, just in terms of like, there's stuff they could try to do if they wanted to make it a little more approachable for people. I just don't really know if that's something that I don't know if that's something that makes any sense. I don't know if there's any like victory there. Like, if they could make it more approachable, but at the end of the day, it is still an extraction shooter. It's still like meant to be this intense experience. And so watering that down in ways that, you know, in theory make it like, oh, well, now more people will buy it and play it. Like, I don't know that necessarily, I don't think that really pushes them in the right direction. But they have done stuff where they've been like, hey, you can only come into this map with sponsored kits, and so your vault of gear or whatever is not a factor. And so everyone starts on a level playing field no matter what. And I think that's a really good and smart idea, because I also think that's a more fun way to play the game. I don't know. It takes some of the stakes out of it, I guess, but I actually really like that idea, but you can't play those solo. And so that's sort of the rub there, is because I've still been enjoying it mostly solo. And so the tension, you know, it kind of shortens the tension period. Like, when you have a bunch of gear in Marathon and you take it in, the tension is immediate because you're on edge, worried that you might lose the stuff you brought, which I don't know. I don't really have a ton of gear that I care about, so it's like, if I die, it's not that big a deal anyway. But like the sponsored gear, where they give you a loadout ahead of time, just kind of drops all of that off. You don't have to worry about that tension. All the tension is built in match. All the tension is built based on what you find as you're playing the game, not stuff that you did last week, last month, or whatever, you know. And I think that it still works in that framework. So I wonder if they would do anything more in that direction, or try to find ways to, you know, to make that work. It kind of, you know, the whole point of the extraction shooter is that you find stuff that you then get to use, right? And you find better stuff, and you get to enjoy the benefits of that better stuff because you found it. And like, that's for some people, that's the hook. That's not really the hook for me. I don't know. Like, I want better gear and it's fun to use it and whatever, but like, I mostly find finding that over the course of a match, and I don't necessarily have to like have it afterwards, you know? And so the sponsored kit playlists, I think, have been a really good sweet spot for the way I think about that game. And so I don't know. I suspect that they will keep doing that, and that they will kind of put some more resources into figuring out what's the exact right way to offer that sort of stuff. But yeah, we'll see. Andy, I suspect you have not played your last game of Marathon. I think you're lying in your email. Braden from Ontario, Canada writes in and asks, is Buck Bumble actually good, or do people just have fond memories of the theme song and they just think the game is good? Buck Bumble is not good. No. Buck Bumble is not a good video game. It is in fact a bad video game. The only thing it has going for it is the theme song. And I don't think that anyone has actually, other than the people who seem to be of the mind that they're going to reissue Buck Bumble in some way, I don't think anyone has been fooled into thinking that Buck Bumble is a good video game. That person can't exist, though somehow enough talk of Buck Bumble has happened that like someone's going to eventually fucking bring it back, right? Yeah, it's, yeah. Chris writes in and asks, after seeing Shift Up stating that they are going to publish Stellar Blade 2 themselves, how feasible do you think the push is for Sony to lock down exclusives again? This is the head of Shift Up was out there saying that they would look to publish their own games in the future so that they could appear on multiple platforms and so on and so forth. Anyway, with growing cost of making games, increased cost for hardware, and a slowly declining market for consoles, does it even make sense for them to have timed exclusives for consoles any longer, with younger generations not having the brand loyalty that there used to be? I know Xbox is a bit different, and I'm just going to kind of skim the rest of this a little bit. Is it even wise for Sony and Microsoft to dig in on console exclusivity, or is the next generation of consoles the last time we will see this, and then it will open up to a larger PC market? So like Sony locking down exclusives is not about games like Stellar Blade. It's about games that they own and operate wholly, right? Like it is about their first party stuff staying on PlayStation. Stuff like Stellar Blade, even if Sony were to publish Stellar Blade 2, I suspect that would include some sort of deal that allows Shift Up to bring it to other platforms somewhere down the line, unless of course Sony wants to pay them to stop that from happening. I don't think that's a good spend for Sony. In the case of Stellar Blade 2, I mean there are, different games are different. But I think that like there's a market for those games on other platforms, especially worldwide, that would want to play a Stellar Blade sequel that might not want to play it on PlayStation. It's probably right and correct in this case for Shift Up to handle publishing themselves or partner with a third-party publisher or whatever, whatever they're going to do, to not go with a first-party platform holder and instead just publish the game across all platforms. I think that makes a lot of sense. Because again, like if Sony wanted to have that deal, they could just open the wallet and get it, right? They would eventually hit a number that Shift Up would go, okay, but it would be dumb. Like it's not worth it. Like the game's not going to have a return on that investment to where like, hey, we paid X number of millions of dollars to keep Stellar Blade 2 off of Xbox and PC. Did it make its money back? No, absolutely not. Because it's fucking Stellar Blade 2. Come on, are you high? No, not worth it. Very few games are. When you think about the amount of money it would actually cost to make these games like long-term, full-on exclusive to one platform, it is simply not worth it. Like, could Sony have paid Kojima to never put Death Stranding onto PC? Yeah, probably. Would it have been worth it for them? No. Absolutely not. There are very few cases where I would say the game is big enough to be worth it, except in those cases the games are so big that even Sony would not be able to afford it. Grand Theft Auto, perhaps. Maybe you go the distance for that, but you can't. No one can. The amount of money they make off other versions of that game, the amount of money they would be walking away from by by saying, oh yeah, Sony said they were going to pay us like $1.5 billion to do this. Like even that would probably somehow not be enough when you factor in online revenues and everything else. So yeah, like that's why they're timed exclusives. When companies do these deals with Sony or with a first party, they end up being timed exclusives at best. Because much like it costs a lot of money to like keep de novo on your game for a long time after release, you're throwing more and more money away by not putting your game out across all platforms over time. And at some point, you've sold all the copies you're going to sell on PlayStation or on whatever platform you do a deal with, and now it's time to get another round of money from players on other platforms. So, just not worth it. Let's see. Nathan from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, writes in and asks, is Dizzy Banjo and Kazooie's grandparent? Hmm. I'm playing Rare Replay and got to Banjo-Kazooie. In light of all you've said on the NES ranking project about Britishness in game design, I'm seeing a lot of parallels between the Dizzy games and Banjo's heralded platformer. This is an adventure game with jumping in it, just like Dizzy, maybe less bullshit also. I mean, Banjo-Kazooie is not really an inventory game the way those Dizzy games are. And the Dizzy games are not like collectathon nightmares the way that Banjo is. So, I mean, obviously there is a shared Britishness between those games. But it's not... I'll tell you though, if they made a modern Dizzy game, it would not be weird to me if they tried to make a new polygonal 3D Dizzy game and you came away from that game saying, you know, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Banjo. Like, that would not be shocking, but that would also, I think, bastardize some of the things that the Dizzy originally stood for. So yeah, I don't know. It's not a great. There's some amount of something there. Banjo-Tooie, the structure of Banjo-Tooie and the number of fucking insane things that it throws at you over the course of that game, I think might be a better fit for this conversation ever so slightly. Yeah, Culinary Disasters, they're both agonizing to play, so they have that in common. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I would rather play those Dizzy games than Banjo at this point. Especially Banjo-Tooie. But even Banjo-Kazooie. Nuts and bolts. Now that's a video game. Everything else, no thank you. Grant writes in and says, me and a friend went to a hippie music festival in the Portuguese desert, as one does, and tracked down some acid to enhance the experience as a way to commemorate the festival. And I feel like this is something you only do when acid is involved. To commemorate the festival, my friend decided to get the artwork on the tabs of acid tattooed onto his arm by an on-site artist who was also there. After getting home and doing some research, he found out that the art was actually the logo from Bullfrog Productions. He has never played a game developed by them and now has to live in fear of British PC game fans trying to start up a conversation about Populous with him. Just wanted to share. That's hilarious. I feel like of the things you could get a like immediate and random tattoo of, a thing that was on a tab of acid is maybe a bad choice. Though I guess it's more of a crapshoot. I don't know, like having the Bullfrog logo. There's way worse tattoos. There are way worse tattoos you could end up getting than the Bullfrog logo, I guess. Because that just, I don't know, it's just like it's just a little squarish kind of frog or something, right? Like that's not bad. That's not bad. Getting it because it was on some acid and you did the acid and then going, man, this is so amazing. I've got to commemorate this fucking acid we took, I think is a little fucking sad in its own weird way. But hey. If you have a lot of, I think the more tattoos you have, the less sad that is. The more it's just like, yeah, I don't know, I got a lot of stuff. I got a ton of ink. Like, fuck it. Put this thing on there too. Let's see here, man. I'm sorry. I am getting over the last bits of a cold here, so we might go a little bit short this week, but my son came home sick on Friday, and then yesterday I started feeling it, and I'm like better than I was yesterday, but I'm still just kind of on the fucking shitty side of this. Paul in DC writes in, Forza Horizon 6 releasing this week made me think about competition in the arcade racing scene. What happened? There's still plenty of competition in the sim racing side of things, but the arcade racer seems to basically just be Forza Horizon. Sure, the crew exists, but Need for Speed is basically a footnote at this point. Things have gotten so desperate that people got excited for a Test Drive Unlimited game. How did Horizon lock up this genre? Did it just come down to having a best-in-class driving model and a high-quality open world? Is it too expensive to even compete? How does the competition catch up? Yeah. I don't know. I think that the interesting thing about driving games is, especially arcade style driving games, is like they're all going to have real cars in them. And so I don't feel like you build a brand loyalty the same way, because ultimately people just go where the cars are. And if your game comes out and it has all the same licensed cars and the game is of a good quality, I think is where the crew sometimes doesn't stand up quite as well. Then, and certainly not Test Drive Unlimited. Solar Crown, that game is poor. Then you're going to run into some trouble. Forza Horizon does well generally. I have to be a little careful here because I have been playing a lot of the new Forza Horizon, and I cannot talk to you about that for another 2 days. But the Forza Horizon franchise, I think, is really good at giving you funky shit to do in cars. You know? Like when you go and you look at like driving around Mexico in the last one, like it had this wide range of activities, all of which were in service of the same progress. I think you could argue that like the progress in those games is really meaningless. And that is something, if you have seen the previews for Forza Horizon 6, a lot of the previews focused on the idea that in Forza Horizon 6, apparently, you will not be playing as a returning champion. You will be playing as someone who is new to the festival. I think the Forza games in general, this is something that applies to motorsport, perhaps a little bit more than Horizon, but it is certainly something that the Horizon games have had to contend with. They are very afraid to put you in bad cars. They are very afraid to have a natural progression in the Forza games. Because you came to drive the super fast cars, presumably. I don't, but that's, you know. As a result, you know, you can buy a car in Forza Horizon 5 and, you know, within like 2 races worth of credits, you've earned enough credits to upgrade it to the highest possible racing class. And so right out of the gate, you're driving around fucking, you know, like 160 miles an hour, you know, like you're going super fucking fast. You're, you know, like you're doing all this shit. Like they don't put you in, they don't lock you into some kind of set progression. And it makes sense because the Forza games are designed to have so many cars in them that they have traditionally been built in such a way that it's like, well, whatever car you like, it's in here and you can drive it. And so it's almost like they're trying to cater to this player who only wants to drive a specific type of car. And as a result, they short circuit any attempt they have at progression by just going like, yeah, I don't know, man, if you want to buy that Honda, buy that Honda. And then you can drive that around. And it can be slow or it can be fast depending on how you upgrade it. But like at the end of the day, you know, whatever, do your thing. And I think whatever do your thing is something that, you know, like generally works for a lot of games. You want players to feel like they are in control of the experience and you want them to be able to do the thing that they came for, which is like have fun with cars. And so building a meaningful progression around that, I think, is something that has been very difficult for them in previous incarnations of the franchise. Because I think if you gave players a bunch of slow cars, they would revolt a little bit, or it would short circuit so much of the other stuff you do with those games, and you know, barn finds and all of the other ways you can get a car, wheel spins, like everything in Forza, auctions and everything. I think it is in service of this idea of you going, of them just largely going, fuck it, man, drive what you want. And I think after a lot of games of fuck it, man, drive what you want, I think I might be more in for something that is a little bit more locked down. We'll talk more about 6 again in a couple of days, but that's something that I felt coming off of 5. Coming off of 5 was this feeling of like, I don't know where they, you know, like 5 is good. 5 is really good. And they've done a good job of like finding ways to make the showcase events more varied and exciting. And in 5, they do this thing where like you drive to a location and like explore it a little bit. And you got to drive around and crash into some stuff and find some things. And like, oh, here's a radio tower. We can put it here. Like, you know, and that's like kind of a neat little chunk of like surface level tourism that you do at some of these locations. But yeah, I don't know. Like Gran Turismo, I don't think Gran Turismo does this stuff necessarily any better than Forza. They do it differently. But the idea that Gran Turismo also at some point said, you can just give us real money and we will give you Gran Turismo credits, I think at some point, you know, is just a different version of the same problem. Also, comparing Forza Horizon to Gran Turismo, you know, Horizon is a very casual game. Gran Turismo is not. You know, Gran Turismo is a significantly more serious video game. And so, yeah, I don't know. I could have a fucking hour-long version of this conversation if we were allowed to talk about Forza Horizon 6 right now. But like, that's kind of like, you know, that's not really germane to what we're talking about, because we're talking about kind of the structure of the previous Horizon games, especially in a world where motorsport might not exist for a long time, right? A period of time where motorsport, you know, like they've like Turn 10, obviously they've laid some folks off, that their attempt at rebooting motorsport did not go well, and that's, you know, like that game has problems. And so in a world where Horizon has now become the, you know, like I think for a long time it was maybe thought of as like, oh, this game's actually better than Motorsport. You know, it was kind of like the goof or whatever. And now you're like, oh, actually, not only is it significantly better than Motorsport, it also continues to exist, which is sort of a big deal too. Profane in the chat says Gran Turismo 4 and Forza Motorsport 4 were both the pinnacle of their respective series. Yeah. Yes. I'm not enough of a GT guy to tell you with certainty that 4 is the one, but that's definitely, I know a lot of people love the Gran Turismo 4, and I will tell you as someone who played every one of those Forza Motorsport games, 4 is where they figured it, all of it. Like 3 was close. 3 is really good too. But like Forza Motorsport 4 is the point where you just go like, yep, all right, yep, you nailed it. And everything after that was like, you know, I might even say 3. Like 4 is a better game. Like 4 is a good follow-up to 3. It's not as like a big a change as 2 to 3 had. Like the difference from 3 to 4, I don't remember being like, I remember like there's a little bit of 4, a little bit of Forza Motorsport 4 starts to have that feeling of just like, yep, I kind of did this last time. Like 3 is probably the one where they really figured out what all of that shit was, and then 4 is where they locked it all into place. Gran Turismo, I don't know, man. I just don't. I can remember buying that wheel and hooking it up to a PlayStation 2, and that being the first time that Gran Turismo actually felt good to me. Because I hated Gran Turismo 1 and 2. And 3 was really solid. But car games, man, I think there are a number of factors with car games that that always, like, for a while now, and I bring it up over and over again, but I really think for at least the last 10 years, if not longer now, maybe more like 15, and probably closer to 10. But like there's this feeling of like, you know what? How much longer are we going to keep doing this? Like, how many people care about fancy cars? How many people still care about getting a fancy car and tuning it up and doing this and that with it? For me, like, all of that stuff was always about getting street legal vehicles and fucking doing cool shit to them. And so the further the games get into like race cars, of just like, this one's got a number on the side of it and it goes real fast, like that is like not interesting to me at all in any of these games. You know? There was a while there that I thought, like, you know, it was because of playing so many of these games that, like, I was convinced that, like, man, I'm gonna go fucking buy a 370Z. And then I sat in a 370Z and had to, like, tilt my fucking neck. I was so tall for the inside of a fucking 370Z that I was like, I could never drive this car. I can't even fucking fit in this fucking car. I'm too tall for this fucking car. And so that was that. But yeah, I don't know. I always thought it would be fun to just get a fucking car and just smoke the fucking tires off it over and over again. You know, just like go fucking drift it into shit and whatever. But yeah, car games are weird, man. Do people still want cars? Like, you know, when I talk to parents of older children, a lot of them do say that, like, you know, like, hey, like, yeah, my daughter turned 16 and she didn't even want a license. She didn't even want, like, it's such a crazy concept to me because everyone I knew desperately wanted to turn 16 so that they could get a driver's license and get a car and fucking leave and go somewhere and fucking do something and get the fuck out of the fucking house, you know? And that's just not really the case anymore. So, which then, whatever. I don't want to, well, you know, it gets back into the societal problems of where can these kids go? They closed all the fucking malls. They closed all this. They closed it. There is no good place for kids to congregate. There is nothing for them to fucking do. Society has decided they hate fucking children. Well, no, society has decided that they love fucking children, that they don't like children. Scumbags. It's I don't know, but the car stuff is a weird one for sure. Anyway, let's see if we maybe have one or two more in here. Mike from Iowa writes in and says, I bought a pretty spendy desk chair not too long ago, and I can't sit in it anymore due to lower back pain. Are gamer chairs any good? Do you have any recommendations? No. I don't. This chair I'm sitting in is a shitty gamer chair type thing. And the thing I found is that most of the gamer chairs seem very much the same. Like, this is not a secret lab chair, but it is like a stone's throw away from it in terms of Like I could lift this off the base and put this other on. Like the differences between the chairs are not that extreme. I had a secret lab chair before that the base on it broke. And then I decided that I was going to buy a real chair. And so I went in and bought I was looking at those Herman Miller chairs that were super expensive, and I was like, that seems like a terrible idea. And so I ended up buying a steel case. What is it? It's a steel case. Let me see if I can find the exact model number or model type or whatever. Gesture. I bought a steel case Gesture, which is a super expensive chair. Not quite as expensive as those Herman Millers, but it was like $1,000. Like a fucking $1,000. It was a lot of fucking money. It sucked. I'm thinking about switching back to it because I don't like this chair. And the Gesture is probably better than this chair, but not as good as the fucking secret lab chair. Like they're all kind of not that far off, but yeah, I don't know. This chair is not tall enough. This chair is like my knees are a little too bent in this chair. It can't go up high enough. I even put like a cushion on the chair to raise myself up a little bit, so that maybe I would sit more naturally. But it's not helping much. And so I need a slightly taller chair so that my legs can be in it a little more naturally or something. So the Gesture, I think, can do that, but I think it does it by like sinking down, and it's a weird, I don't know. I was not impressed with the steel case Gesture, which, it is literally on the other side of the monitors here, sitting there with a backpack in it. All I would have to do is, and I will eventually probably do it, but I don't necessarily want to switch back to that chair either. So I don't know. I don't have any good, that's my long-winded way of saying I don't have any good recommendations for chairs. They all fucking suck. Go sit in some chairs. Like, go to Staples and sit in a bunch of chairs and see if you like any of those. And maybe that will maybe that will help. I don't really know. I don't really know. Let's see if we have maybe one more we can find here. Brian writes in and says, what is your take on the origin of the term noob in gaming? Did it exist before Noob Saibot became a Mortal Kombat character? When is the first time you heard someone referred to as a noob? This is at some point an age test, but when I see the word noob written Noob, I shake my head because it's spelled wrong. The original use of it was like, I don't know, earlier internet, like the term newbie, Newbie, was like fairly commonplace. It didn't necessarily have a negative connotation to it. It was just like, oh, here's someone who's new to a thing, and these newbies came in and they did this, and they didn't know how to do this, and so it was just kind of like, I don't know. It was just something that was used in context of like Usenet, people posting to news groups in the early 90s. That's when I first would have seen it. And then, of course, as everyone eventually loves to fucking spell shit wrong, it very quickly became Noob. And then some people wanted to make it with zeros instead of O's or whatever. And yeah, so it doesn't really, like, it's Noob Saibot because it's the word Boone written backwards. I don't mean to fucking blow your mind. And the word Tobias written backwards. It has nothing to do with the actual definition or description of the term noob. It's so they're completely unrelated, I guess, is the actual answer to your question. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's it kind of, I think it's kind of a dumb term. I always thought it was kind of a dumb term. Uh, Josh from Mahoney Bay writes in and says, since you mentioned the PlayStation 5 controller on Windows, do you know anything about Apple officially selling PlayStation 5 controllers? It's true. They sell PS5. They sell DualSense controllers on the official Apple store. It's kind of strange. It always struck me as odd and maybe a sign of Apple's innovation decline. Do you have any thoughts about this partnership? It feels underexplored. I think it's just like, so, do I have any thoughts on this partnership? I know that Apple over the years has explored gaming in a more direct way. There was a while there that they had a controller. Over the years, the number of times I have heard the idea of Apple like, oh yeah, they've got a controller. Like I knew people that had prototype official Apple controllers in their office because Apple came and showed it to them and they're like, yeah, we're going to, and it wasn't like what it was going to hook up to never was immediately clear. I think nowadays you could look at the Apple TV and say, oh, huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess that you could play a lot of games on an Apple TV in theory. Like there's no reason not to have a controller. And so it would make sense at some point for them to have a controller and also maybe to have an expanded Apple TV Pro or Apple TV Ultra or something that they could maybe market as something resembling a gaming console. But Apple hates games. At least that was always the rap on them. It was always the story you would always hear is that Steve Jobs didn't like video games, which didn't stop him from being, like trotting out when the Quake 3 test rolled out and it debuted on fucking Macs. That was crazy. And a couple of other times over the years where like the Connectix virtual game station, the PlayStation 1 emulator that came out on Mac, like Apple was very interested in that. And so there's been like limited moments over the years where Steve Jobs was like at or adjacent to some kind of Mac gaming thing that always seemed weird because it just, the rap on him was that he just didn't really care about it and didn't think it was all that important. Obviously Steve Jobs is no longer running Apple. But I don't think that they've ever really gotten truly serious about games. And that's weird to say because they have whole teams of people employed to run things like Apple Arcade and go out there and do deals to bring games to that subscription platform and the way that those games run on multiple Apple devices, I think is kind of like cool. But at the end of the day, they just never really pulled the trigger on anything more serious. But they still did the work to make it so that these Apple Arcade games are playable on an Apple TV. And the remote that comes with your Apple TV is not sufficient to play a lot of those games. So at some point, they needed a controller. And what they have done is they have decided to sell Sony's controller in their store. I don't think there's anything too much beyond that in terms of like partnership stuff. I mean, we'll see, I guess. But again, like they have come seemingly very close multiple times over the last, God, I don't know, 10 or 20 years. 20, maybe not 20 years. Let's say 10 to 15 years of putting out their own controller, if not their own gaming platform. And it was something they thought they were going to get into and didn't. And, but there's been stuff over the years where they thought like, hey, like our product lineup is missing a controller. Like I guess we need to have one. We should make one. Let's do it. And then they've gone and prototyped and then never, ever shipped anything. There's a handful of third-party things that they do sell in their stores that are, accessories for Apple devices. The PlayStation 5 controller just kind of fits into that category. It's just weird because it's a controller that you largely use for something else. or you think about it in a very different context. So yeah, it is a little weird, but I don't think it necessarily. I'll put it to you this way: if Sony and Apple were to do more business in the future, it would not come as a result of like, well, we started our partnership with the controller in the store. Like the controller in the store is just something they did, and it's fine. And I agree with you that it is a little bit strange. But, you know, again, having the knowledge that, like, at one point Apple was going around and showing people a controller, it just strikes me as they never had a controller that they liked enough to ship. And so instead of continuing to bang their head against it, they said, fuck it, let's sell PlayStation controllers. Those are good. And that's probably the right move. Though, I don't know, there's something about the heft and size of a PlayStation 5 controller. The idea of carrying one with you and hooking it up to your phone, even though that's a thing you can absolutely do, I think is fucking ridiculous. Like, no thank you. Like, even the stupid shells, like the backbone, gamepad things that fit around your phone that never work if your phone has a case, and also who doesn't have a fucking case for their phone. Like, the idea that I'm gonna, like, take my case off my phone so I can put a controller onto it. Never, ever in a million no fucking thanks, man. I'm good. I'm not going to do that. That shit is ridiculous. Like, all that stuff just seems dumb. And that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody, for writing in to the show. And talking for this many hours when sick. Now my throat hurt bad. Feel bad. Throat feel bad. But I'm pretty much better at this point. I don't know. Like I was definitely worse yesterday, but I've driven out most of the cold at this point. I feel like I've been getting sick a lot less often this school year, than I did last year. Like we were getting sick constantly last year, and you know, now we're not that far off from the end of the school year, which is scary for a lot of reasons. But yeah, we've kind of made it through with way fewer illnesses overall, which has been nice. Though being sick right now sucks. Have yourself a good rest of your Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do something with video games. And yeah. Have a good one. Take care.